Hey guys, Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer. We talk about all things music. And today, I would have done a band versus band with Black Flag and the Misfits, but then as I started listening to the albums, I kind of realized, or thought at least, that the Misfits would win easily. So much so that I decided to do a Black Flag album ranking this week and a Misfits album ranking next week. However, I will say some of Black Flag's stuff has grown on me, so in the coming weeks I'll tell you who would have won that battle for sure. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started with Black Flag album number 7. So, this is Black Flag's big comeback album, and no. Just no. I barely notice bad production most of the time, but here it's exceptionally grating. Like, lead singer Ron Reyes' vocals are way too far back in the mix, and they just sound awful in general. The guitar tone is awful. And why do all these songs sound the same? Yeah, this sounds like an attempt to get back to the basics with an emphasis on the word basic. Also, why do so many of the song titles on this album sound like jokes? Like, wallow in despair? That's what I feel like doing after listening to this. And also, to hell and back? That's where I feel like I just went after listening to this. This is hell? Damn right it is. And go away? Yeah, that's exactly what Black Flag needs to do. Same with slow your ass down, for that matter. And also shut up. And the bitter end? The bitter end of what, guys? Black Flag's career? I'm sick? Yeah, I'm sick after listening to this. Yeah, the list kind of goes on. There's a song in here called You Gotta Be Joking, which, yeah, they've gotta be, right? Even the album title sounds like a joke. What the? That's what I said after listening to this. And also, it's almost like they knew this album sucked. Black Flag, please do us a favor and never try for a comeback again. This album is a career killer, and it's a career that should stay dead. Yeah, I'm putting this album right in the F tier. So, let's move on to the classic stuff now.
Going to live the end. Apocalypse Man. What the hell else there to do? I want a mission.
Family Man is the definition of an album that I respect more than I like. On one hand, I appreciate that they're trying something different. On the other hand, I don't always like with the different things they're trying. For those of you who don't know, this album starts out with 6 spoken word pieces, which I hate. But then it turns into this 9-minute post-hardcore song, which also has some spoken word, but with actual instrumentation behind it. And it's pretty good, even though it drags on way too long. And then after that, we get 4 kind of jazzy, almost instrumental pieces, and those are actually really good. Yeah, I'm more negative on this album than positive. I do respect it, though. I just don't want to listen to over half of the songs. So, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Honestly, I might actually have more respect for this one than I do for my number 5, but my number 5 has more I enjoy, so it's going above it. But if you're wondering what that next album is, well,
Drink the black coffee, drink the black coffee, stare at the wall, black.
here we have my first hot take of the video. A lot of Black Flag fans consider Slip It In to be among Black Flag's great albums, alongside My War and Damaged. However, I personally do not think this is a great album at all. Sure, it has some great songs, like the closing track You're Not Evil, although that one does drag on too long. Unfortunately, the lows on this album are some of the lowest of Black Flag's career. First of all, the title track from this album is really icky. It is basically about Henry Rollins seducing a woman and basically coercing her into having sex with him, which would be disgusting enough if it wasn't for the obnoxious moaning sounds throughout. Yuck. And then there's Wound Up, which is an incel anthem if I ever heard one. I know incels weren't a thing back then, but if they were, this would be their anthem. And then there's the song Rat's Eyes, which has these horrible vocal inflections from Rollins that make me feel like my ears are being violated or something. And then there's Obliteration, that is just kind of a boring instrumental track. Yeah, that's half of the album I don't like. That said, Black Coffee is a good song, even if it is a bit repetitive. The Bars is solid track about a girl going through a hard life, though I'd personally argue that the misogyny of Slip It In and Wound Up kind of muddles the message a little bit. But then there's also the song My Ghetto, which is actually pretty good as well. And of course, You're Not Evil, which is the best song on here, even though it drags on too long. Yeah, this album has just enough good on it to be decent, but I'm still only putting it in the C tier. It's not good quite. But on the topic of good,
I love you because I love you.
this is my buddy Arnarok's favorite Black Flag album, and I know a lot of Black Flag fans agree with him. On one hand, I can see why. After all, the hardcore punk tracks at the beginning of this album are great, and the B-side of this album basically invented sludge metal. On the other hand, unfortunately for this album, sludge metal has never really been one of my favorite genres. I enjoy it when it's on, but it's not something I go back to a ton. Mainly because my not very good attention span just cannot handle it. That said, I love most of the hardcore punk tracks, especially Can't Decide and also Love Me. Those are both great songs. And I also think Nothing Left Inside is a great sludge metal track. That one's actually really good. And if I liked sludge metal more, this would probably be higher on my list. But as it is, everyone has their biases, and here's mine. Arnarok, if you're watching this, just know that I put this album in the A tier. Now, for yet another hot take.
We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Before I listened to my top two, I thought for sure Damaged was gonna be number one. As it is, it's number three, but don't think I don't like this album, because I do. After all, this is the song with Rise Above, aka my favorite Black Flag song. It also has the hilarious TV Party and Six Pack, as well as the heavy metal inspired Depression, and the catchy No More and Gimme Gimme Gimme, and also the noise rock song Damaged One. That song is insane. And let's not forget Life of Pain. That song is a song about self-harm written well before emo music was a thing. Yeah, this album has a lot of great songs on it, but there are some songs like Room 13, Damage 2, and Padded Cell, which just kind of run together for me. And none of the songs on here are bad, though I'd say What I See comes the closest due to its not very good production at all. It's just that not all of the songs stand out. Also, I will say this is the most nostalgic Black Flag album for me, because it's the one I've been listening to the longest. It goes in the A tier. Now for my controversial top two.
In my head, I wanna be that bullet that goes ripping through your skull.
You know, before my number one grew on me considerably, I thought this was gonna be my number one. I love the sound of post-hardcore mixed with elements of post-punk and noise rock. It's such a cool sound, and there are great songs all over this thing. Songs like the opening track Paralyzed are fantastic, and that song in particular has a great chorus to nod your head to. And the title track is as well. Drinking and Driving is a punk rock rager. Retired at 21 has a great melody, and the closing track, It's All Up to You, is the perfect closer. It's just so catchy, interesting, and fun to sing along to. And it feels like a triumphant outro. As for the other four songs, they're good too, though I wouldn't call them great. The Crazy Girl is a bit too repetitive. White Hot is a bit too slow. And Society's Tease drags on way too long, and Black Love has some not great vocal inflections. Everything else about those songs is great, though. Now, if you're wondering what I think of the bonus tracks on this album, Out of This World is great. I Can See You is not very good. It's easily the worst song on either version of this album. And You Let Me Down is a great song, though I would argue It's All Up to You makes a better closer than it, hence why I'm using the vinyl version for this ranking. My question is, why does no one talk about this album? It's so good and experimental and interesting. And And I've heard plenty of people talk about Damaged and My War and even Slip It In because they think they're all great. And I've even heard people talk about Family Man because it's a weird experiment, and they talk about What the because it sucks. Why does no one talk about this masterpiece? It's a great album. You guys are sleeping on this one. I'm putting it in the A tier. And speaking of great albums that no one talks about, okay, I'll be honest. When I first heard this album, I thought it was going to be my number 5. To me, it just felt like it was taking the sleaziness of Slip It In up to 11, and you know how much the sleaziness annoyed me on that album. On repeated listens, I kind of began to enjoy it a bit more, and then I enjoyed it a bit more on my third listen, and now it's above in my head, even. The main reason it grew on me is that for as sleazy as songs like Loose Nut, Annihilate the Weak, and Bastard in Love are, I actually think they're pretty fun, or at the very least, the band sounds like they're having a good time, which is more than I can say for the sleazy songs on Slip It In. Plus, there's no weird vocal inflections or moaning, so that's a bonus. Aside from the 3 I just mentioned, other great songs include the punk rock rager Best One Yet, the weirdly jazzy This Is Good, and the Black Sabbath-inspired Modern Man and Sinking. As for the other 2 songs, they're pretty good, but not quite as memorable as the others. Anyway, I once again have to ask, why does no one talk about Black Flag's 1985 stuff? Both this and In My Head are fantastic albums, and yet no one talks about them. Granted, this one isn't quite as underrated, because Mike from Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex actually said this was his personal favorite. So it's not quite as underrated, but still. Anyway, it's going in the S tier. And it's the only S tier album Black Flag have, and I stand by that. Anyway, that's my video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer, and I'm out.